The commentary part is the most nerve-wracking and my least favorite part. But here we are once again. I wanted to try something a little bit different this time, and I've actually had this idea from the very beginning. But there are a lot of components to it, and it was gonna take a really long time. And so I put it off and put it off and put it off, and then the holidays came around. I just decided to do it. But the main problem is that I have a laptop. I don't even have a desktop, so it's not like I can really game. I'm not a gamer.
Watch this. Oh well.
My gaming stamina is about 60 minutes. So this was gonna be a little bit challenging, but it was fun, and I want to keep doing it. I want to prove that I can actually finish this game. I finished it a couple times. No, that's a lie. Once during Christmas I played with my brother and I got through the whole thing. I haven't gotten through the whole thing by myself, but I want to prove that I can. So I have the meadows down pat, so it's kind of boring. We're gonna look at this together. Surprisingly, not a lot of people know what this game is. There are still a lot of people that know what this game is, but not too many. I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty easy to tell what's going on. Valheim is a survival game, but it also has a story. I don't really know how to explain it. It has a bunch of bosses that you have the option to defeat if you want to actually finish the game. It starts with Eikthyr, the Elder, Bone Mass, Motor, the Queen, and Fader. The interesting thing about Valheim, you have to take risks in order to progress.
Oh. Get it? Run! Too early. Can't deal with it.
It's not just like Minecraft where you can just go and dig a hole and you can avoid the monsters as much as you want.
I don't really feel like dealing with those guys.
But you don't really have to take a ton of risks in order to progress. You can get diamond right off the bat. But with Valheim, it's not like a skill tree, but you have to gather materials. Materials are the things that make you progress. I said this wrong. In order to survive, it would be advisable to gather materials. I guess progress in the sense that you get better weapons and better armor and stuff and better structures. But you don't have to, there's complete freedom with traveling around. There is a thing called a reverse run where you go to the most difficult biome and defeat the most difficult boss all the way down to the easiest one. So instead of Eikthyr the Elder, Bone Mass, Motor, Yagluth the Queen, and Fader, you go Fader the Queen, Yagluth, Motor, Bone Mass, the Elder, and Eikthyr. So that's one of the reasons I like the game, is because there's complete freedom with that. You don't actually have to progress in order to go to another biome. You can go wherever you want. You have to deal with the consequences. If you don't have good enough
skill
in order to travel into another biome, you can find out, I guess.
Even though this is on normal. I'm not deluded enough to think that I can finish a game on hard by myself. Oh.
As you gather more materials, you unlock recipes. And in the context of the world of the game, you remember them. It's really fun because it doesn't hold your hand and you can't cheese your way through. If anybody knows about Let's Game It Out, he played Valheim once and he couldn't break it. And if you know Josh, his whole purpose in life is just to break games. But with Valheim, he couldn't really break it. I mean, any game that he plays, if you understand how the game works, it's absurd how far he goes with things. But the only way that he could make things absurd with Valheim was to do everything in excess, just to illustrate how solid this game is. It also has physics and stuff. It's very fun and it's very rewarding because you actually have to be skilled at the game in order to get through. I want to prove that I can get through this game just because, you know? I'm not proving it to myself, I'm proving it to my brother. I know that he knows that I can make it through the game by myself, but I don't know if he thinks that I'll actually have the patience to do so, because there are a lot of chores, because you have to gather materials in order to progress. Sometimes you have to gather a lot of materials and it takes a lot of time, because while you're gathering those materials, there are a bunch of monsters. You respect all of the monsters besides maybe the necks, but that's pretty much it. Even boars at the very beginning. Greylings, maybe not. I hate greylings. At every level, You gotta respect your enemy. They have some power. You can die if you let your guard down. You can take as long as you want to finish the game. What I'm doing with mine is incorporating a little bit of speedrunning. I'm not a speedrunner. There is no way I'll be able to finish the game in the amount of time that speedrunners do. But that's another thing. Valheim is not really a speedrunnable game. My brother speedruns Valheim. When you're going as fast as you possibly can. For my brother, who is very good at games, it takes him 16 hours. There are just so many variables with every game. You don't know what to expect. You can't really plan anything out. You can plan a little bit, but you gotta be quick on your feet, which I am not. That is one reason I'm doing this whole thing. The first thing you do is gather food. And the first things that are available to you are raspberries and mushrooms. You can get either deer meat or boar meat in order to fill the third slot of your food. Deer at the very beginning, before you get a spear or any projectile weapon, are extremely hard to kill. The boars can kill you very quickly. There are usually several of them in one area, or you can find like maybe one or two and you can take them on pretty easily. At the beginning, you can kill them with your torch and it'll make them run away and not attack you. But you can sneak up from behind and jump, and so you don't make any noise. You jump and then hit them and it can kill them with a, you can kill them pretty quickly with a surprise attack. The food, you have to be conscientious. I think that's the right word. You have to be aware of the kinds of food that you eat. All the food that you eat increases your health and stamina a certain amount. The neutral food, which has the white fork on them, like the mushrooms, I'm guessing, I haven't actually checked the stats, they increase your health and stamina about evenly. The raspberries are a stamina food, so it increases your stamina more than your health. Bees are essential. They give out honey, and that is a stamina food. Meat, like boar meat, is a health food, and that increases your health food a little more than your stamina. And they stack on top of each other. Since I'm not speedrunning it, but incorporating some speedrunning strategies to this so that it doesn't take a million years, it still will take a million years, that's fine. Because I'm doing that, I'm trying to gather things as fast as possible. I don't know everything, so as I progress in the game, I'm gonna forget or not know, period, what materials to get, how much of it to get, so it's gonna take a while. The materials, besides food, at the beginning of the game that you gather, are wood and stone, primarily. Wood is the most valuable resource at the beginning of the game. There's a lot. The first weapon, I guess technically, is the torch, and that's automatically in your inventory. The first weapon that you can get is a club. This is where I grab my phone and I look up the material lists. So the club takes 6 wood. So that's the first thing I try to do, is get 6 wood and I think 5, 6 stone for a campfire. If you set down the campfire and you sit next to it, you can get comfort level 1, which gives you rest after a few minutes, and that makes the stamina increase faster when it depletes. But before the campfire, man, everything's all over the place. It's not in any particular order, but just for the sake of illustration, the club takes 6 wood, the hammer takes 3 wood and 2 stone, with which you can make a workbench which takes 10 wood. And since that takes 10 wood, you have to have even more wood in order to use it, because it has to have a roof over it. Once I get enough wood for that, and a club and a hammer, a stone axe takes 5 wood and 4 stone. But in the meantime, or after, I gather as much flint as I can. And with that, I can make a spear, which is the first weapon that I really want in order to kill Eikthyr, the goal that we're getting to in this video. In order to make a spear, I have to have leather scraps. And in order to get leather scraps, I have to kill boar. And boar, at the very beginning of the game, are kind of dangerous, because I'm not good at the game, so they can kill me very fast. A flint spear takes 5 wood, 10 flint, and 2 leather scraps. That's level 1. In order to get a level 2 spear, I have to have a workbench and a chopping block. The chopping block also takes flint, which is why I need so much flint in order to upgrade the spear. And in order to upgrade my spear, I have to have even more flint, and I think more leather scraps and more wood. In the meantime, I'm trying to get deer, and I'm not good enough to get deer before I have a spear. And even when I have a spear, it's a toss-up whether I'll get deer or not. In order to even spawn Eikthyr, I have to have 2 deer trophies. And that's where the variability of the game comes in. It can be either really easy or really hard to find deer. You can kill a handful of deer and only get maybe 1 deer trophy out of 6 deer that you kill, or you'll get none. Or maybe with the first 2 deer that you kill, you'll get 2 deer trophies. That's kind of the fun thing. It's unpredictable. So yeah, in order to spawn Eikthyr, you have to have 2 deer trophies so that you can sacrifice those things at his altar. He's not very hard. He has 3 or 4 attacks, and then that's the end of the boss killing. he gives you a trophy which you can put at the shrine, and with that shrine you can get the power of Eikthyr, which decreases the amount that your stamina depletes when you run and jump. So yeah, that's pretty easy. Eikthyr is not very hard at all. So someone like me can theoretically defeat him. I didn't die, so that's good. That would have been embarrassing if I did die. I'm not very good at aiming with the spear when I throw it, but that's okay. Once I'm in the mountains, it'll be essential that my aim is better than it is right now, and you will see why when we get to the mountains. It all boils down to this. I wanted to draw all of the bosses. Every single time I watch my brother play Valheim, I look at the scenery and it's just so picturesque. I wish I could paint so that I could paint it and get the colors, because the colors are very pretty. I also, this may seem like a tangent, it's not. I also had a lot of fun drawing the demons from Doom, the Dark Ages, because the charcoal is very rustic and smoky, and it just has like this really gritty and intense aesthetic. Is that the right word? So in watching my brother fight all these monsters, I see, not on Doom. I have two brothers, by the way, Michael and Max, so let's differentiate between those two. Whenever I watch Michael play Valheim, and I see him fight all these creatures, I get dances of sugar plums in my head. I have these concepts in my head, and I wish that I could draw conceptually, because if I could, I would take a shot from a game or something, and then not necessarily draw it like a carbon copy. I would use it as a reference, but I would kind of shift the angle and, you know, incorporate all the details of that boss or that monster and the fight and just make it look like an action shot, and it would be more of a conceptual drawing than a reference drawing. But in the meantime, I am still working on drawing from references, so I will take liberties where I can and recognize where my skills are limited. So I played this game, and then afterwards I got a screenshot from my fight with Eikthyr. And it took me several days to draw because I really wanted to take my time. I drew something back in November that I really had to take my time on, and it took me about 10 hours. Before, I was really making a point to mention what my time was because I wanted to get faster and more efficient. Total time I think was 3.5 hours, 4 hours. This took like 3 days. Total time I think was 3 to 4 hours. A little over 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. I cut down my time from 4 hours to 2. While I was drawing, I would also get nervous because the camera was rolling, and so I would kind of speed through it, and I noticed that my drawings were kind of downgrading because I wasn't paying attention as much to where I was placing things and where I was wanting the focal point to be. But then I drew a drawing in November, and I really had to take my time on it, and I didn't film it, so I was able to relax and not feel like I was on stage in front of an audience. So I tried to do that with this, and so it took me, let's be generous and say 8 hours. And it took me several days because I really wanted it to be good, so I'll try to remember what my thought process was when I was drawing it, but I mean, I think I remember it pretty well. I started drawing from my phone. So I tried to put my phone, I tried to prop it up on the easel, but it was in front of my drawing, so I had to put it on a really precarious place, and then it was down here, so the angles, I couldn't measure the angles because then I had to bend over like this and then get the angle, and it was really hurting my back. The first session I drew from my phone as a reference, I realized the error of my ways, and went back to my laptop instead. So that might have had a role, using my phone as a reference might have had a role in like the proportions of things and the relationships between certain features, but I think I fixed it. So I did what I normally do. And oddly enough, it's very similar to my first Valheim video, or my first video, where I used the toilet paper to get a general idea of where the darkest shapes were. But this time I used the makeup brush that I discovered several months ago, which was very nice. So I started with the makeup brush. I got the darkest shapes that I could see, and I tried to not do it too dark so that I could, you know, adjust. And I used natural charcoal powder stuff. It's not official charcoal powder. I haven't bought any of that yet. I don't know why. I have sandpaper. I take the charcoal sticks and I rub it on the sandpaper, and then I dump the extra powder into a little teeny tiny flower pot thing. And then I use that for powder. And natural charcoal is nice because it's very adjustable. Unlike compressed charcoal where it's more permanent. I used the natural charcoal powder for the beginning. It looks pretty dusty and it doesn't look like anything at all at the beginning. Because with the lightning, I had to make sure that I didn't, as much as I could, I didn't touch the areas where the lightning was going to be. So it just looks like a bunch of dark splotches on the paper and it doesn't look like anything. The person was the hardest to get. It's funny because I didn't think the person was going to be hard to get. But because I started with the reference on my phone, it was really difficult for me to get the angles. And it's like such a small adjustment on the angles, like the arch of the back and stuff. It still looked weird no matter how much I adjusted it. And so I spent until the very end, it was like the last thing that I worked on trying to get that right. I made it smaller than it was in the actual game because Eikthyr is a chump and I wanted Eikthyr to look more intimidating. So I shrunk the person, made Eikthyr look very big. If I could conceptualize things, I would have had like an upward angle at Eikthyr's neck and like he's looking down with his antlers like this and the chains and the lightning in his antlers and everything. But I can't conceptualize yet. I will. So I just made the person smaller. And I made a very big point to make Eikthyr's head the focus, which is something that I haven't really done with all the other drawings that I've done. Until the drawing that I did in November, that one I really had to pay attention to. Rewind, I forgot to mention the very first thing that I did. With the drawing that I did in November, I had to Photoshop a little bit, and then I had to sketch out what I wanted to, with pencil, I had to sketch out what I wanted it to look like and where I wanted it to be placed on the page. I did the same thing here, this little sketchbook that I have. So this is the sketch that I did. It was a little bit difficult to do it just with my eyes. So I did this. I took the screenshot that I had and I put it into Photoshop and then I zoomed it in so that the top and the bottom aligned with this paper. I just put it against my computer and then cropped the screenshot that I had according to the dimensions that I wanted for the drawing. So that when I cropped it in Photoshop, I could use that as a reference and then I didn't have to think about where exactly do I place Eikthyr because I didn't want him to be smack in the center. And it worked really well. I cropped the picture and I didn't really have to think about where I was going to place it because one thing that I do when I draw things is I look at the relationship of the subject with the edges of the reference. So say Eikthyr is off to the side, I'll look at where his head roughly aligns with the top of the paper and so that I can use that as a reference point and then from there I can just use his head as a reference point for all the other angles and objects of the image, and it worked really well. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of how charcoal works a little more. I did not use the compressed charcoal anywhere but Eikthyr's head, which I made a point to do because compressed charcoal is much darker than the natural charcoal that I have. The darker the shape, at least how I was taught in school when I was 13 years old, the darker the shape, the further it's brought forward. So I made that a point. If I wanted Eikthyr's head to be the focus and I wanted people's eyes to be drawn to that space, that area, I wanted that to be the darkest. So I only used compressed charcoal in that area. Contrary to what I did with the Hell Knight. Yeah, so the drawing looked kind of crappy at first, but luckily charcoal is very smoky. And this was full of dirt and smoke being, what's the word, stomped up into the air. All the smudges and stuff that I made by mistake in the beginning worked. If I make a mistake, I'm gonna try to incorporate it into the image as much. I'm gonna try to incorporate it into the image as much as I possibly can. Holy crap, image, English. That's the thing I like about drawing from games specifically with charcoal. The games that I watch or that I play are very rustic, like Doom. Valheim is one of those games that doesn't have a lot of details in the graphics, but it gets the lighting. It has just enough detail to where your brain fills in the blanks, but not so much that it crashes your computer. It's so satisfying. It is exactly like a painting or a drawing that you see from far away and it looks exactly like the thing it's trying to portray. But then you look closer and you can see every brush stroke and it just looks like a mess of random colors. That is my favorite thing in the world, so that's why I'm drawing from it. It's a nice way to practice these things. I just thought as long as even with the smudges and everything, I thought as long as I could get the lighting to be bright, as long as I could get the lightning to be bright, then we were okay. That being said, I did consider using my white pencil for just not the entire light around the lightning, but just for like a hint of the lightning rod that was on the picture, but I couldn't do it too much because I don't want the focus to be everywhere. I was contemplating that because my paper and like the drawing itself was somewhat warm and the white pencil is a little bit cool. You know, I was wondering if it could make it pop. The reason I mention that is that with these drawings that I'm doing, one idea that I had with playing games and drawing interesting events or certain bosses in this game with charcoal, I wanted to see if I could somehow get some color in there. Just like maybe one color or two colors. So like with Eikthyr, it would be his red eye. Oh, my microphone died, so I'm just gonna use the camera audio because I'm almost done anyway. So with Eikthyr, it would be his red eye and maybe the blue lightning around his antlers. And I haven't done that yet because I don't know with what material to do it. I was thinking oil paint because I have oil paint and I could just like barely touch his eye with the red, but I would have to get like the right shade and it would also have to not soak into the charcoal. And so I would have to probably fix it with a fixative spray and then I would have to put primer on it or something so it doesn't soak into the paper and then like, you know, make it decompose. All that work just for the eye. So I don't know if oil paint is correct for this particular drawing. Maybe with a drawing that has more color in it and then it would be more worth it to do all that work. But then I was thinking like maybe pastel, but I don't have any. And I was getting really impatient for this drawing. That's not off the table, but it's certainly... And then I was thinking colored pencil, but I don't want to like press really hard into the paper. Maybe colored pencil will work. I want to get into color. I want to learn more about color. The last several videos I've just been coloring random crap. If anyone has any idea what thing I could use to add color to this, I think the eye is what I'm sticking with the color. But if anyone has any idea what I can use to do that so that it's like subtle but also makes it pop and doesn't ruin the charcoal or the paper, please suggest something because I don't know. And I'm not really good at researching things on the internet, you know, reading Reddit posts or reviews of stuff, because it's a really specific thing that I'm looking for and I don't know how to sift through the internet in order to make a decision. So I'm relying on the internet to make a decision for me. But other than that, I hope I'm speaking loud enough. I'm a very quiet talker, so I hope I'm speaking loud enough for the camera audio. Anyway, I think that's it.